Welcome back, my fellow watchers of the multiverse, to another brand new Avengers 2000 series. And we're going to be diving into part 2 of Avengers 4, The Cloud of Darkness. What is going to happen? The tensions are high between Magneto, Charles Xavier, all of the heroes in New York City. They have to make a choice for the Hero Prohibition Act. Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen. But that being said, my fellow watchers, do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. Let's get right into the brand new episode. After the Avengers dismembered, Hulk suffered from major PTSD from the battle for Earth, so much so that he fled the city soon after the battle as the Green Behemoth landed at the entrance of the old abandoned Gamma base. The structure echoed with the haunting memories of the experiments that had happened here. Hulk's heavy footsteps reverberated through the desolate corridors as he navigated the eerie remains of the facility. Hulk leaped through the city and made his way back to the abandoned Gamma base. Inside the dimly lit control room, remnants of the shattered equipment and faded monitors surrounded the Hulk. The Gamma warrior, now transformed back into Bruce Banner, examined the broken technology that once fueled his transformations. He fell to the floor in tears. The familiar green hue that typically accompanied the emergence of the Hulk shifted, morphing into a distinct shade of gray. As the transformation unfolded, Banner felt a surge of strength. The anguish that had gripped him moments before began to subdue, replaced by a cold, calculated resolve. The gray-skinned Hulk, sometimes often referred to as Joe Fixit or the Smart Hulk, stood where Banner had knelt moments ago. With a profound sense of awareness, the Hulk surveyed the remnants of the abandoned Gamma base. His enhanced intellect allowed him to understand the significance of what happened, and with the mind of Banner and the strength of Hulk, Banner knew that he might be able to bring the Avengers back and fix the city. In the makeshift laboratory of the abandoned Gamma base, Smart Hulk had managed to set up a TV. With his hesitant hand, Banner pressed the power button, and the screen flickered to life, casting an eerie glow across the dimly lit room. The news anchor's voice filled the air, and the Smart Hulk's gaze narrowed as General Thunderbolt Ross's stern face appeared on the screen. Ross, standing in front of the press, was addressing the recent developments with a sense of authority. In the light of recent events and the Hero Prohibition Act, we've made significant strides in ensuring the safety of our citizens. Some individuals have chosen to cooperate for the greater good, recognizing the potential threats posed by these enhanced beings. The Smart Hulk's brows fluttered as the camera panned to reveal a surprising figure standing beside Ross. Magneto. I'd like to introduce a powerful ally in our mission to protect the public. Magneto has agreed to assist us in neutralizing the remaining threats posed by the so-called heroes. The Smart Hulk's fist clenched involuntarily. His anger was getting the better of him. Magneto, once an adversary, now seemingly aligned with the very force that sought to eliminate those with extraordinary abilities. The news coverage continued. In a surprise turn of events, the Fantastic Four have chosen to comply with the Hero Prohibition Act. Reed Richards, also known as Mr. Fantastic, spoke to the press earlier today. The screen transitioned to an interview with Reed, who spoke with a mix of feelings. Richards said, "We've decided to give up our powers voluntarily. While it's a difficult choice, we believe it's the responsible thing to do for the safety of our world. We must adapt to the changing times and put an end to the era of superpowered individuals. The smart Hulk watched the interview with a mixture of frustration and disbelief. The choices made by others echoed throughout the abandoned Gamma base, and it was time for Banner to make a choice. Either he was going to kill the Hulk, and possibly himself to become human again, which was pretty much impossible, or he was going to be placed in jail for the rest of his life. Hulk smashed the makeshift TV as his face grew in frustration. He knew what he needed to do, and he needed to assemble the Avengers if they were going to fight back. There was one point where Banner took a deep breath, and he remembered when Spider-Man helped him, and maybe it was time that he did the same. Frank and Daredevil continued to follow each other after the events of what happened within the city, and they were currently on a rooftop away from the public eye. It had been 12 hours since the events of the breaking news story about Thunderbolt Ross and Magneto's partnership. They had less than 12 hours left before the new law was put into effect, and Daredevil couldn't agree more with Punisher. "We need to take him out," Frank said to Matt, as he began loading up his gun, filling his ammo into his pistols. "Not like that, Frank. Like I told you before, I would only work with you if we don't kill," he said. Frank walked past Daredevil. "You know what? I think we got played a bad hand," he said. "How so?" Daredevil asked. Frank started loading up his gun. "We've been dancing to someone else's tune, Red. Fury's been playing Puppet Master and we've been the mercenaries." Daredevil began frowning. "What are you talking about, Frank? Fury was an ally. He helped us when we needed it." "Yeah, that's what he wanted us to believe, but think about it. The Avengers, S.H.I.E.L.D., Fury, they were all working together. They knew what was going on behind the scenes." Daredevil replied, "You're saying Fury set us up? That he was in cahoots with the government all along?" Frank nodded. "Exactly. The Avengers were his pets. He had the strings and we were just dancing to his beat. Now look where we are." Daredevil crossed his arms, considering Frank's theory. The events of the past few hours had left them questioning everything that they had once believed in. Why would Fury betray us, Frank? What does he have to gain from it? Power? Influence? Who knows? Maybe he saw this coming and decided to play both sides. We were expendable. The Avengers, the heroes, he threw us to the wolves. Daredevil was shocked, and he replied, if that's so true, we need to expose him. But we can't just rush in, we need a plan. That's where you come in, Red. You're the strategist. I'm just here to clean up the mess. You might be onto something, Frank. Ghost Rider and Spider-Man are our best chances at getting leads, finding out the truth. If anyone can unravel this mess, it's them. Frank nodded in agreement. Agreed. Ghost Rider's got that supernatural edge, and Spider-Man's got that street-level intel. If anyone knows what's really going on, it's them. We'll need to move fast. The city's changing, and we can't afford to be caught in the crossfire of this government crackdown. I've got a contact who might know where we could find Ghost Rider. If he's still in the city, we'll get a lead on him. Spider-Man, well, he's a bit of a trickier one. Daredevil replied, I've got a few leads on Spider-Man. He's always swinging around, trying to do the right thing. If anyone can stay ahead of this mess, it's him. As they spoke, Daredevil and Punisher began to formulate a plan. The rooftop became a makeshift command center, a place where two lone figures plotted against the uprising tide of the government control. We move at night, less surveillance, less attention. I'll reach out to my contact about Ghost Rider. You work your sources on Spider-Man. We'll compare notes and figure out our next move. We're taking a risk here, Frank, exposing ourselves, going against the law. But if Fury played us, if the Avengers were betrayed, then someone's gotta stand up. Damn right, Red. We're not letting them take away our rights to fight for what's right. The heroes might be down, but we're not out. Johnny Blaze, the man cursed with the spirit of the Ghost Rider, found himself wandering through the desolate streets of the city. The recent events had left the once brutally metropolis in shambles, a testament to the chaos that had unfolded earlier. The buildings, battered, still stood tall, and the debris-laid streets echoed with the aftermath of destruction. Ghost Rider's demonic motorcycle roared through the empty streets as Johnny Blaze maneuvered through the city's wreckage. The flaming skull atop his shoulders remained a haunting symbol of vengeance, but the eyes beneath the flames told a story of weariness and dislet. For hours, Ghost Rider moved silently, his thoughts a tempest of regret and guilt. The battle for Earth had left scars on his soul, and the echoes of the chaos lingered. The city was once a beacon of hope for everybody, was now a canvas of despair. But it wasn't the first time Ghost Rider felt this way. It was only moments before where he was fighting God Doom. And now, in a moment of despair, Ghost Rider was now in his flaming motorcycle and walked through the desolate streets. He didn't seek justice or retribution. Instead, he found himself helping the fallen structures, clearing pathways and aiding the city's slow recovery. The weight of the recent events pressed heavily on Johnny's shoulders, and his actions were driven by a need for redemption. As the rider worked tirelessly, he couldn't escape the oppressive sense of loss that hung in the air. The burning streets of Hellfire cast flickering shadows on the ruins. A sudden commotion disrupted the eerie calmness Ghost Rider had felt. Ghost Rider's head turned sharply towards the sound, his fury eyes narrowing as he sensed trouble. A group of optimistic criminals had taken advantage of the city. They targeted a store that had barely survived the recent destruction, aiming to steal whatever remained of value within its damaged walls. As they raided the store, oblivious to the ghostly presence watching over them, a shadow loomed from the fiery depths. The thieves froze as they noticed a burning flame casting ominous shadows in the doorway. The air itself seemed to grow colder as Ghost Rider stepped forward, his otherworldly presence filling the air. The flickering light and the skeletal grin on his skull. Without uttering a word, Ghost Rider unleashed the chains of vengeance, and chaos erupted within the store. The criminals, realizing the gravity of their mistake, attempted to flee, but the demonic rider moved with supernatural speed, and he destroyed them all. As one final thief fell to the ground, Ghost Rider stood amidst the wreckage, the flames of judgment still dancing in his eye sockets. And with a swift motion, he motioned his motorcycle, the engine revving to life with a demonic growl. The ghostly figure tore through the debris, his motorcycle leaving trails in his wake. A surge of determination filled his soul, a renewed sense of purpose for Ghost Rider. The city may have been scattered, but within the remnants of chaos, Ghost Rider rode on, a blazing spectacle ready to confront whatever darkness was about to lay ahead. Peter Parker was sitting on his couch with Mary Jane by his side, holding hands while they watched the interview with the Fantastic Four. Parker was shocked hearing the news about the Avengers being pinned for the destruction over the city. Parker knew he didn't want to give up his powers, but what could he do? He couldn't depend on the other heroes to overthrow the government. He wasn't a criminal, but Peter felt betrayed over this. "I don't know what to do," Peter said to MJ. "You need to do what's right, Pete," she added. Putting her hands around him, Peter hugged Mary Jane and turned to the TV as Peter's eyes widened. He saw Magneto, standing side by side with General Thunderbolt Ross. Magneto declared that he would help Ross clean up the mess the Avengers made, and if they didn't comply within the next 12 hours, they would be found by Magneto by force. Parker thought of everything that happened and wondered what the other superhero community thought about losing their powers. With great power must also come great responsibility, and Peter knew this. He stood up from the couch and looked at his Spider-Man suit. "Peter, it's not safe, you need to stay low," she said. Peter took his costume and turned his face to face Mary Jane. "I know, I can't forget my duty though. I made a big mistake, MJ. I left the people to clean up my messes when I should have been responsible," he said. "I'm going to try and fix this. Do what I can," he said. Peter swung out of the building. As he began swinging through the streets, he looked over the near side of a building to see most of the city being cleaned up. Peter was shocked at the devastation the Avengers left. "What have we done?" he said. Parker then looked to his left to see a single flame, a streak flying by on top of a building. "Wow, Parker, you always pick the best times," he said. Spider-Man swung across and caught up with Ghost Rider. The Rider noticed Spider-Man as Peter tried to catch up with him. The two began to race across the city. "Stop," Spider-Man said as he continued to swing to catch up with Ghost Rider. The two met in an alleyway as Ghost Rider stopped his bike. Spider-Man swung to the side of a building. "Hey, Ghosty, you better stop." The Ghost Rider turned to face Peter, as he then pointed to a group of criminals. He was about to kill them before Spider-Man told him to stop. He swung across and beat the criminals, hitting one of them in the face, and using his webs to throw the criminal towards Ghost Rider. The Rider kicked him in the face as Spider-Man waved. "We need to talk," he said, as he still fought the criminals. The two of them finally stopped fighting, and it was over. The two of them finally stood still and looked each other in the eyes. "We need to bring the band back together before we're spread out," Spider-Man said. "It's too late for that," the Ghost Rider nodded. "It's not too late," a voice shouted back. Ghost Rider and Spider-Man turned to see Daredevil and Punisher on top of a rooftop. They slowly came down to face Spider-Man and Ghost Rider. "We're looking for answers just like you, Spidey." "What are you guys doing here?" Daredevil said. "I've been trying to look for you guys. We can't spread ourselves thin. We're gonna be hunted down soon," Spider-Man said. Punisher butted into the conversation and told Ghost Rider and Spider-Man about his theory on the Avengers being pinned. Spider-Man and Ghost Rider thought about the theory. "He's already dead," another voice said in the distance. Blade jumped down the stairwell and faced the four of them, who were all shocked to see Blade standing there still. He raised his hand up and showed them the eye patch that was covered in blood. "I went to track down Fury after the meeting with Strange today, but what I found was a trail of dry blood." "Fury was murdered," Blade replied. "How the?" Punisher said. Everyone was confused about this, but it didn't matter. Punisher's theory was shot down. Blade interjected and told Punisher his theory. "I think Fury worked closely with the government. After the devastation we caused, they casted him aside and killed him, leaving Ross to pick up the pieces," he said. "We gotta stop Ross," Ghost Rider said. The heroes agreed that if they stop him now, they might stand a chance at fighting the law. "I don't think we should fight the law, but what choice do we have?" Spider-Man said. "The people in charge are corrupt. Look at who's going to rally us," Daredevil declared. "Magneto," Punisher said. As the group of heroes stood conversing with each other, they began talking about the Hulk, Doctor Strange, the X-Men, along with the Fantastic Four. "We need to find them before they do," Spider-Man said. A swift gust of wind blew through the heroes. Spider-Man shot up as a spider sense sent chills down his spine. He turned to look at Ghost Rider's chains as they began to move. Within a split second, the chains twisted and turned around his body as he fell to the ground, being sent towards Blade and Punisher. Out of the shadows loomed Magneto. "I've been sent to bring you in, Avengers," he said. Spider-Man and Daredevil both looked at each other, nodding as they launched an attack at Magneto. Eric blocked Spider-Man and threw him into a wall, while Daredevil punched and kicked Magneto. Punisher slowly got up from the ground and raised his revolver. "Frank, no," Blade said as Magneto held his hand at the shot as it rang out and threw it back towards Punisher. The shot landed on his chest. Punisher looked down as he fell on his knees. "No," Daredevil said. He was hit in the back of the head by Deadpool, who came out from the shadows standing side by side with Magneto. "Last chance, Avengers," Magneto said, as Daredevil aimed his gun towards Blade. Spider-Man ran towards Punisher, trying to hold him up. "What have you done?" Spider-Man said. Ghost Rider, who was still struggling, trying to break free from his own chains. He couldn't. A helicopter flew past the alleyway. You guys need to get out of here," Frank said. Spider-Man looked across from Blade as the two nodded and began to attack Magneto and Deadpool. But Blade was cut short as Magneto used his powers of magnetism to grab a hold of his blades and launch them towards Daredevil, who got stabbed in the process. Spider-Man charged in anger and used his webs to hurt Deadpool. Deadpool and Spider-Man fought before Peter kicked him towards Magneto. Magneto fell to the floor. "Frank, no," Daredevil said. The military touched down by a nearby rooftop and began descending from both sides of the alleyway. Daredevil and Punisher, along with Ghost Rider, couldn't get up. Frank was bleeding out, while Daredevil's leg was stabbed from the attack. Spider-Man and Blade managed to escape the scene as the military came out with Thunderbolt Ross. Ross told the two to stop as Spider-Man swung away from the scene with Blade. "Track them down," Ross said to Deadpool. "No," Magneto said as he looked at Ross. "No, that's an order. Spider-Man and Blade will lure the rest. Let's take these three in and make an example of them. The superhero community will be destroyed." Ross agreed as they apprehended Ghost Rider, Daredevil, and Punisher. The three were taken aback into the helicopter with shock collars around their necks. They left as Deadpool and Magneto stood still, looking at the chaos that followed. "Tomorrow the hunt begins," Magneto said, as they left with Ross. Moments later, Spider-Man dropped Blade off by a nearby building, as the two of them watched the helicopter leave with them. "Now what?" Spider-Man said. "Doctor Strange," Blade replied. Spider-Man thought about it for some time before he agreed to go with Blade to the hideout in the Sanctum Sanctorum. As Blade and Spider-Man traveled across the city, they began talking about Fury and the fact that he was killed. "Maybe this whole time S.H.I.E.L.D. was going to be blamed for all of this," Spider-Man said. "I'm not sure, but one thing is for sure, and that S.H.I.E.L.D. is down. Every file wiped away from all of the systems. They knew if we took the blame for the events, and possibly backlash from the other governments," Blade replied. "If Fury was the only one who was an outside source who formed the team, then it made sense why they would kill him. But it doesn't matter now, because we have to avenge him and fight for our freedoms. We can't let heroes die off because of this," Spider-Man said. Blade and Spider-Man made their way to the hidden Sanctum Sanctorum, and Blade did a hand signal to open up a portal. Spider-Man was left in shock As the two walked through it, Doctor Strange approached the two of them as his cape flew in the air. "So, Blade, I see that you have found the right path," he stated. "We have," Blade retorted back. Spider-Man looked at Blade and Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange said that he has news about an upcoming threat that looms in the distance. Elsewhere, Thanos had made his way to Earth. He had landed on the moon, and now he was going to come after the heroes. He knew what he had to do, and Thanos knew that the heroes would soon or later come for him. So Thanos thought that he would do it himself, that he would come for the heroes first, and he began laughing as he landed his ship on the moon. Things had just gotten a lot more crazier.